Sometimes it's time to upgrade your server and add more storage. This server is a pretty basic server. It's not high tech. It's not expensive. We have another video where we showed the general idea, concept behind the build and the components that we put into it, why we chose those components. Two primary considerations. One was the cost of the components, and the second one was reliability. Now, we try to find a nice balance between those two things. So, today what we're going to do is upgrade this server, give it some more storage. We're basically going to nearly double the capacity of the drives in it. We have a hodgepodge of drives in here. For example, we have four 4 terabyte drives, 4 1 terabyte drives, 2 8 terabyte drives, and 1 2 terabyte drive. Now, there is some logic behind why some of those drives aren't very big, at least at this time, and one of the reasons is we wanted to get the drives in because we can swap them out and the computer will immediately recognize, as long as we give it the same hard drive or same drive letter, it remembers what it is and it immediately stores it, so the other computers don't need to be remapped to the drive. So that's one thing. The other thing is some of the drives are only storing the data on one drive of our main computers. So it makes it easy if we ever needed to just swap them out. So that's probably going to be pretty temporary. Today we're going to swap out one of those drives that is 1 terabyte because we really don't need it anymore for that purpose of being a clone of one of the other drives. The second drive we're going to swap out, we just call the miscellaneous drive, and it's kind of like a catch-all drive where people throw things that don't have a home on one of the other drives. Like we have 3 video drives in here, so that's very important. So what we want to do is swap those 2 drives out, a 1 terabyte and a 2 terabyte. We're going to put in 18 terabyte drives. So the server before had 36 gigabytes of storage. Well, 38 gigabytes of storage. Terabytes. Terabytes. I'm showing my age when gigabytes actually meant something. So 38 terabytes is where we were, and dropping those 2 drives, we dropped back to 35 terabytes, but adding the 2 18 terabyte drives, we're going to push it back up to 71 terabytes, is effectively double what we had. So that's what we're doing here today. So let's go ahead and get started. It's a pretty simple process. What we have here is a Corsair case with extremely good airflow. So currently we have 3 fans in the front, 2 fans on the top, 1 fan in the back, and another fan on the bottom. We did have some fans on the side, but we found that the airflow was pretty good without those. So we really don't want to have more fans than we actually need. If we thought it would help, and it just didn't show in our testing, so we're not going to do it right now. If it ever made a difference, we would definitely do it. So let's go ahead and get the sides off of this thing so we can get to the drives. So what we've done in here is a pretty rudimentary labeling system where we just put a little sticker on each of the drive bays so that we know which drive is which. There are 12 of them, so it's helpful. So let's see what we got here. So we got M here, and that's one of the drives we're going to change. And I see over here we have J. So M has to be disconnected from the back, and J is going to be disconnected from the and replaced from the inside. So actually J is definitely easier to do than M. No, I think maybe M is in here. No, M's up here. That would be W in there. Alright, so let's go ahead and get started on that. I'm going to step around, switch the camera over to the secondary camera, and we'll take a look down in here. We need a team around here. We have a bit of a team, but not really. No, mostly it's a one-man show at this point. So pardon the pauses. I really don't like cutting the videos. I'm sure at some point I'll do that, and I'm sure a lot of people is like, oh, that's not very professional. You're right, but I am not very professional. So I'm trying to do my best. Main thing is I'm just trying to show what we're doing here. So you can see inside of this case, so very clean, very open. That's one of the reasons we chose this case. Now, in another video, you can check it out, subscribe to the channel, and see one of our other videos where we build another server very similar to this one, and that is our backup server. So that server is going to inherit a couple of these drives. It doesn't have near the capacity of this one, but some of the more important files that live on this one are going to be moved to that one for backup. So yeah. So here's what we got. So here is our M drive here. It's connected on the back, and over here is the J drive. So let's pull out those replacement drives, and what we have here are the Hitachi 18 terabyte helium drives. It's very good enterprise grade drives. I've had a lot of luck with these. They run really good. They don't get too hot. I mean, they're not exactly super cool in my experience, but they don't get as hot as some of the other drives. I actually had to take a couple drives out of this server in the past and swap them out for 5900 RPM drives because they were just running on the edge of where you want to drive. So these aren't Hitachi, these are Seagate helium drives, excuse me. 18 terabyte Seagate drives. They're the Axios X18. I thought they were helium. I could be wrong, but they are 18 terabytes. So, as I said, I was actually referring to the helium drives, but I don't know how we got these, but possibly they are helium drives. But you can all abuse me in the comments box down below and let me know. Hopefully these are going to run nice and cool, and we're not going to have any problems with them. There's some really nice looking enterprise grade drives. So here, let's have a quick look at it. Really nice looking drives. But we don't care as much about how they look as we're hoping that their performance is going to be really good. So we're going to disconnect a couple drives here. And it's kind of important to remember where everything goes. So when I disconnect them, I like to think about that part, like 1, 2, 3. So this is the third drive down that we're replacing. So we're going to go 1, 2, and then just make sure that one goes under there. So we got 1, 2, 3, and then we'll go in reverse 3, 2, 1 to plug it all back in. Now this is a really nice setup here where these are mounted. So what I did was I purchased a drive adapter here that turns 3 5 1/4 bays into 5 3.5 bays. Now you can't put any 5 drives in there because this drive would be too thick for the 4th drive. But if you put one of the thinner, like a 1 terabyte thin drive in there, I know some 1 terabytes are thick, but some of them aren't thick, and that's how we were able to do it. So this top drive is a thinner drive, but it allows us to get that 5th drive in there. So your mileage may vary if you use one of those adapters. Just keep that in mind, that top drive cannot be one of the thicker styles. It has to be a thin drive. So as you can see, these drives have the same basic thickness, so we shouldn't have any problem. What we are going to do is swap that little sticker because we want to know what we got here. So we may replace that with a better sticker, but for now this should just be fine. So you have to put these little holder back on so you can slide it back in the tray. And they're pretty good. They're pretty well built and designed. They have the little pins there for the holes, so they fit very nice. You just take out 2 screws, one on either side. And just like that, we're going to be finished with our first 18 terabyte drive. There you go. And I can't even imagine 20 something years ago if somebody would have told me I'd be putting 18 terabyte drives in my computer. I would have thought they had some kind of mental problem. Because how can you have drives that big? But yeah, you can, right? You can also make a mistake and put these in the wrong way like I just did. That's okay. You guys can have fun. Flame me a little bit in the comments. I am not a professional, but I do enjoy it. I really like working on these things, on computers, doing some minor upgrades. I've made mistakes. I've, caused failures a couple times. I did one computer recently upgrade, and I swapped out a CPU, and I still can't figure out how I bent the pins. Just can't figure that out. But it happened. Luckily, it was a very old CPU. It only cost like $10, so you can't say it was much of an upgraded computer. Very, very, very low price setup. But it was the CPU for my backup server. So if you want to see that, you can check it out. We actually did a video on that one too, where we're building a backup server for our backup server. Now, I don't know if that thing will ever go online, but I can tell you I'm a crazy backup guy, and that's how this server came to life. Is I back up all of my data on multiple computers, and on my main computer I have 2 copies of everything. So at any one given time I may have 5 or even 6 copies of an important file. So yeah, a little bit much, okay, maybe so, but I really don't like the idea of losing important data. So now we got to find this drive. So let's see if you can see it better this way. So we want the M drive. Now this drive should be a 2 terabyte drive. So it's labeled M, so I'm pretty confident that would be the M drive. And it's the second drive down. I'll just show you what that looks like on the back here. Could be a little better cable managing than that, but it's a little difficult. So we're just going to disconnect that one drive, so we shouldn't have any problem figuring out where those cables go. So we pull that out, and as you can see, it is a 2 terabyte drive, and that would be our miscellaneous drive that I spoke of. So at one time these had the easy pins, but those were very brittle, so they really didn't make those very good. So what we did was we just took all of those out of all of the drive trays on this server, and we use screws. It's probably a little tighter than the pins anyway, so it's not hurting anything. We did have to put a tiny spacer in there, so we use a little bit of Velcro to pad it. So you can see that here on the tray, and that just gives it a little bit of padding there. Otherwise it warps the tray when you put the new drive in there, and yeah, we don't want those trays warped. When you warp those trays, the drives don't fit, or the tray doesn't fit nicely anymore, and yeah, it might slip and slide around in there instead of being locked in its bay. So let's get those screws back in there. And then we'll pop this back in there. I don't expect to have any problems with these drives. They come with a nice warranty. They're guaranteed quick replacement for 90 days, and then they have an extended 5-year warranty on top of that. So we're pretty sure they're going to be okay. And the place where I bought these drives, they're very good. They guarantee all of their stuff. Never had any problems at all with them. So yeah. So as you can see, that fits in there really nice because we put the spacers in. Then the trays fit in properly, and they don't want to come out when you do something like we're going to do right now. Flip this over. If you flip that over and those trays aren't locked in, then you got drives bouncing around, and that's not what you want. So whenever I do something like this, one of the things you're definitely going to want to do is just go back through and tighten up all of those connections. Just make sure nothing got loose while you were doing that, because obviously that's bad. So while we got that down there, we're going to go ahead and throw that side back on. And we're going to carefully flip her back over. And then we're going to do the same thing again here. Now we put the top 3 back on, but we just want to give a little nudge on each of the cables and make sure they're all back in. Another thing you always should do is just check everything real quick. Is everything still in good? It's kind of important. Alright, so we're all good there. So let's just take a quick look in case you didn't want to watch one of the other videos or you missed it. And we'll go over the build of this build really quickly. We have 3 fans in the front, and that's to push air through the hard drives. We found that the other fans didn't pull hard enough to get the air through like we wanted, so we're pushing it. We put a little foam on there to make sure that the air is pushing directly through where the hard drives are and not around them. We have a fan in the bottom, we have a fan in the back, and we have 2 fans here on the top. So those pull through very nice. We have an 80 plus power supply. Actually, we'll probably do a build and we may replace that in the future, but we definitely recommend 80 plus gold or platinum. Gold is probably good enough, but you want a good power supply because they're more efficient, so you're not going to lose electricity and just generate heat instead of electricity over time. We use a Quadro 400 graphics card. It's not a powerful graphics card by any means, but it is a very low power. I believe it's 32 watts. You're welcome to check me on that. We have 16 gigabytes of memory, which is plenty for this server configuration. We never have any problems. We have a AMD Phenom X4955 processor. Again, not a high-end component, but it works good for this system. I would rather have a lower power processor, but since we already have that, that's why we used it. And you know, building these things on a budget is part of the whole thing that we do, and I have found those are very reliable processors. So I've always liked that particular 955. Over here we have 4 SATA ports connected here to a PCIe adapter, and we have 2 SATA ports connected over here to a second PCI adapter. Now they do have PCI adapters that can handle have more ports on them, but again, we already had the cards, and so that we just used them in this server. In the future, we may consolidate into a single card. This server or this motherboard comes with 6 ports, so we were halfway there. We just needed the other 6. We do have a second Ethernet card attached, and that's because this server connects to 2 separate networks, and one is for my family, one is for my business. We try to keep those separate. We do not want access to any portions of this server that is not necessary. So my family does have access to a couple of the drives for backing up their systems. It's all automated, but because the programs have access, they technically have access, and I just don't want anyone to make a mistake and accidentally get into the wrong place and get into the business side. And so yes, that's why the second card. Alright, so that's about it. Thanks for watching the video. Hope you'll keep following us. I'm sure we're going to add more drives to this system in the future, but we're probably going to be pretty good for a while. Our data usage is still fairly modest, but we're trying to do more videos for you, and so our data needs are increasing, and we just want to get ahead of the game and make sure we're adding capacity long before we actually need it. So, and it's good to make a video. I like to keep showing what we did, why we did it, and how you can do it on a budget. You don't have to start with 12 drives. We didn't start with 12 drives. We started using our other systems to do the backup. That's how we did it. So effectively, one of the other PCs that we normally use was being dual use as a computer for like running specific programs, to also being something that it would be backed up to when it was online. But we wanted to go with a dedicated system, one for backing up all of the computers in the house, but it also acts as an FTP server for all the IP cameras around the house. So that's a very important function. All of the IP cameras are generating a lot of data, so we want to make sure that data has a home, and this is it. So again, if you like this video, subscribe to the channel. If you would like to know more about this server, and you can watch some of the other videos we've done. If you want to see our backup to this server, which is like a similar build, has the same processor, the same graphics card, a similar capacity as far as the ability to add drive bays, but it currently has 6 smaller drives. But the 2 drives that came out of here today will probably land in that server, so its capacity will continue to grow as well. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.